I want to welcome Warren Strickland to the interview. This interview will be brought to you by Cascade Sports. All right. So first and foremost, I know this guy. I've played with this guy my whole life, and we've had some great times. But I want you guys to know him. I want him to introduce himself. So, Coach, what is your name and where do you coach?
My name is Warren Strickland. I coach at Raytown High School. I am finishing my 14th year with baseball. I will be starting my 14th year with softball coming up the fall, couple months. And I'm a guy that's from Raytown. And when I left there in high school in 1997, I said my dream job was to come back and be a baseball coach and teach there. And, you know, unlike some other people that don't get to live what they say when they leave and they're 18 years old, I actually got to do it. I went through some different paths in the road, but I got back there. Yeah. And it's gratifying. It is one of those things where every day I look and go, this is my job. Like, this is what I get to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get to talk, because I saw some things about kids later that I'll explain what I meant right there a little later. But yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's just like, I'm living my dream.
Yeah, and not a lot of people get to say that, especially us as baseball players. You know, once we get done with the sport, it's kind of like, you know, who am I now? What do I do? Especially for those who didn't finish school. And I was a part of that group until, you know, some years later. But yeah, man, you get done and then it's kind of like, you know, what do I do now? And for someone to have the idea to say, hey, you know what, I'm going back to school. I want to coach. And then you go after that dream. You reach that dream. That has to be gratifying, man. So I congratulate you on that. Tell me about your team. All right. So what stage do you think your team is at right now?
This stage right now, we just finished baseball, of course, and it was the season after COVID. So it was the season of don't take anything for granted, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
We had four seniors, and out of those, only one of those guys is returning. And I had 7 other sophomores and 1 freshman. So I had one guy that had one inning of baseball of varsity level. So, you know, we always talked about the freshmen from last year and now they're sophomores. And I was talking to a coach and he said, yeah, but if you think about it, your seniors were sophomores last time they played. And it was like, wow, that is true. So we were definitely young, just like everybody else. And there were some teams that were heavy seniors and heavy upperclassmen, but a lot of them, especially ones we play, they're all young. So we're all just kind of trying to see what happens. So like any other year, you're dealing with the kid that's really good in summer league. You're dealing with the kid that has been good since he was in little league. You're dealing with the dad that was a professional player or minor league, or, you know, the old, I could have did it, but my arm hurt kind of thing.
we all know those, right? You're going to have at least 3 or 4 of those. Like,
and I'm one of them arm dudes. So, I mean,
right. Like, I could have if they would have just came to my game.
Yeah. So, you know, and the difference I tell people all the time about softball and baseball is the softball girls don't think they're going to the league. Right. They don't, none of their parents tell them they're getting drafted. Like, so they just play and what happens. So you got to deal with, my dad said I'm this great. My summer coach said I'm this great. And now you trying to say I'm just okay. Well, I'm a realistic. Like, I'm not getting paid off of it. Not saying anybody else is, but I'm not getting paid off any of this like this. I'm just trying to make you the best person you can be. So it's always the same the last 14 years, man, in both sports. It's like I have to prove that I know what I'm talking about. And then once they kind of see it, they kind of come by. Some parents who aren't all about it, they start understanding. And then around the end of their junior season, seniors, they're all like, oh, okay. And the best thing I love about it is once they go to college and they call me and go, I mean, I thought you was being a jerk for making us run polls or doing that or this, but that's what we do. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah, right. So we're going to get into that in just a second as far as your playing career. But I was wondering, is there some kind of feeder system to where the younger men and women or ladies and guys get to know who you are as a coach, know like, hey, I'm going to go play for Coach Strickland up at Raytown? Like, is there some kind of a way that you're able to communicate with them to kind of build up that rapport? Or is that something that you're looking to establish later on?
In the early years, I did, because we had little leagues in Raytown. We had the softball, we had the baseball feeder systems.
What happened to those?
I'm assuming money. I don't know.
Okay.
They just, like last year, the COVID thing dropped. The big one over at Graceway, which is basically turned into Raytown Little League. That's just where everybody in Raytown, because that's the only place to go. Mm-hmm. And then when they stopped, and then they stopped this year, it's just kind of like, what do we do? So yeah, I used to go to game. My niece and nephew used to play up there, so I used to go up there and wear my Raytown stuff all the time and talk to different kids and just watch them play. I used to go to the softball games and watch them play down there on is that Little Blue over there by your spot? Yeah, over there. But I only got to do that one year, then it stopped. So I just kind of, whenever my niece is playing or one of my kids gives me a schedule and I got time, I'll go around and watch them and just kind of, like any other coach, just look at every other field and just kind of see who's there. And being in it so long, I have to see it myself, because you'll get the dad that tells you, oh, come look at this, and he did that and this. And I'm like, well, that's great. But he also got to go through a whole school year, got to go through girls, you got to go through grades, all the other little stuff before spring happens. Mm-hmm. And he might not like baseball that much. He might just be playing because you want him to play. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I did it, but there's nothing to do now really with it. And so what we did for this year for high school is we were trying to figure out a way, how can we get guys and girls? The girls, it just came too fast and we didn't have enough time. But the guys, we're doing a summer league this year at Raytown with Belton, Ray South, us, Truman.
Yes.
William Crispin, I think that's it. Yeah, William Crispin. No, not William Crispin. They dropped out because they didn't get enough guys. But I think we were trying to get 8, and I'm letting my assistant coaches run this, because I want them, because some of them want to be head coaches. I want them to see. It is a difference between moving up one chair. When you're the assistant coach, everybody loves you.
People don't understand. It's a big time difference, man. Moving up one chair. As an assistant, you really just have to be there. As a head coach, oh man, the paperwork is crazy. You have to check so many boxes. It is difficult. But go ahead, continue.
But yeah, just piggyback what you said. I remember my first year in softball, just like, okay, I'm just going to mess with the infield. And then the next year, I became the head coach, and I was sitting there looking. I'm like, oh man, I got to do the outfield, the infield, and it takes so long to get people around you that you trust and understand that they're going to say and understand what you're saying and not trying to backstab you or stuff like that. To where now I'm at the point, especially in softball, and it's starting to get in baseball, where this year I stepped back twice and kind of looked and was like, I'm just sitting here filling out the lineup card. Like, they doing everything, which was cool. And then it started making me remember, wow, I'm really getting old now. Yeah. But it's good to see. It's good to see young people trying to take over and get their voice point across and listening to me and doing what I say and just making it happen. For years, I was the only coach that could hit fungos. Now I don't have to really worry about that unless I really want to do it. But that's an art.
You're living a life of luxury, my friend. If you able to do that, you got coaches that's able to do that, and you're able to at least communicate. And I'll share some of my experiences with coaches. I think I've had a set of different coaches every year since I've been there. And it's just about clicking. If you don't click with a person, or if you're telling your team this and they're saying things behind your back that's different, it's like, man, that's not going to work. You got to be on the same page, and I totally agree. So let's talk about your career, right? So I know you as a ball player, and sometimes as coaches, maybe we have to either show them or tell them, like, hey, I've played this game before, and then they're like, yeah, right, until you actually show them a thing or two, you know, and they're like, oh, this guy can play and he's better than me. So tell me about your baseball career. Where did it start? Where did it end? How was it? Go ahead.
I started back in the great 3-2 of Kansas City,
Yes.
where, you know, most of us played, and we could say it was the best league. I mean, that was the premier place to be. And like, you know, this was way before these tournament teams started coming out and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it was great talent since I was 10 and under up to 16 before we became competitive. And then I moved into one of those elite competitive summer teams and traveled the country. And, you know, as a 16, 17-year-old kid, you're not really thinking about all the places you're going until last week. And I'm looking at a map of my kid talking about the places I've been. And I'm just like, wow, I've been to like 20 different states because of baseball. So that was cool. Then I got in high school, you know, went to Raytown High School and did pretty good there and was trying to figure out where to go to college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Definitely found a couple D1 places. My dream college was Wichita State. And the cool thing about this story is Gene Stevenson was at the Missouri Baseball Coaches Clinic 3 years ago. And still to this day, when I see him, I'm just like, oh, that's the legend. Like,
yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
And then on my summer team, his son was one of my coaches. So, you know, playing at X Stadium, did that multiple times. Played in front of him, hit a bomb in front of him. And then, like he told my coach, yeah, I saw it. Then I also saw him strike out 3 times, or on 3 pitches the next. So what that story is, sitting in Raytown, get a phone call to Gene Stevenson on the phone. I'm ecstatic. And he says, I got a center fielder, probably get drafted. Come on up. If he doesn't, you're going to have to wait a year until it's your turn. Well, unlike this generation that I've seen, I'm a competitor. Yes. So tell me to come up and compete against this dude, and if I lose, I lose, and I know I lost. But just to say that, it threw me off.
Yeah, but were you originally, and to say that, I'm going to piggyback on what you said, but you were originally a shortstop, right? And did Gene Stevens see you play shortstop?
No, I was an outfielder then.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was playing outfield then, and so, you know, that was a whole thing. And it was kind of a waiting game. Couple other ones only gave me half. You know, as the old saying goes, in our community, if they ain't giving you the full, you might not want to look at that. Right. So Evansville and Indiana State, I couldn't go to. We didn't have no money. I couldn't. And then one day I'm at Johnson County. That's where I went. I bunted 4 times against Rutgers University in the fall. Why? Because I was struggling at the plate, but I knew I could bunt. And I knew I was fast. I knew I can get on. And so when I got recruited to them, he told me, Coach Burns was like, you bunted 4 times and you got on all 4 times. That's why you're getting this. And so and see, when I do like my bunting drills and stuff like that, and, you know, the power hitters doing this kind of thing. And I'm like, look, man, I got a $120,000 scholarship because I bunted 4 times. I didn't hit the ball at the infield. I got a full ride to a private school, and all I did was bunt. Because it's an art, and if you can get on base, you got those coaches that are like, if you can get on base some kind of way, it doesn't matter. The money ball thing.
That's right.
It's just the money ball thing. So that lost art, and I call it a lost art because I think it is a lost art. There's no videos on bunting. There's videos on launch angle and how to do all this and hit all these home runs, and people are playing a lot of money, and it's like, it's a lot of pop-ups too.
Yeah, and that's a part of the game that plays. I mean, getting the ball down or getting the runner over, you getting the first, being able to use your tools, still first, still second, still third. I mean, that's part of winning baseball. You know, like you said, it is a lost start because it's not sexy. Nobody wants to see that, right? But for us, I think baseball enthusiasts and kind of the older generation, that's part of the game. It's fun because it's the game within the game. As opposed to like being okay with the strikeout. You know, like you know. So, so what was it like? I know what it was like, and I could talk about it, but tell me what it was like playing back then, in that era, like when we played, and then kind of coming up during your college days and all that kind of stuff. What was it like?
Growing up, at 3 and 2 and then the travel thing, I think I learned a lot more baseball than I ever knew I knew. Learning just technical things. And that's the big thing that helped me as a coach. Once I realized in college, like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be a coach. I like teaching. Like, I enjoy telling somebody something and then seeing it work.
Yeah.
And now at this stage, I love telling somebody and then them having to go through the struggles. And I always make them talk to me about it. So
Yes.
my biggest thing is, if you know what you did wrong, then you can fix it because you listed. I mean, the game is about failure. I mean, like we know, I mean, you're great. You failed 7 times and you're great.
Yep.
And so, going through Johnson County, that was a deal, man. JUCO ball is one of those things where you either like baseball or you don't. and my coach was definitely not as hard as yours and some of them other ones out here. I had a buddy up in Iowa where they had to shovel the snow off the ground and then practice. Like, we wasn't doing that, at least.
You gotta send me somewhere else. Yeah.
But that was an experience, man. And I still talk to my coach from JUCO, Kent Shelley, at least once a month, either on Facebook or text. He just retired. He was that COVID year, he was retiring. They were 55-3.
What?
And season ended. Yeah, man, they were doing it.
Wow.
But yeah, and so then I go to Rockhurst, and I never thought about anything until one day we were walking through the Union, and we all had our baseball stuff on, and the Black Student Union was sitting there, and I kind of was like looking at me. I was just like, all right, whatever. And I walked out, and I kind of said something about it, and my assistant coach heard me. He was like, you're the first Black to ever play here. I was like,
Kidding.
What?
Wow.
So 1999, I was the first Black player to ever play at Rutgers University.
Are you freaking kidding me? I did not know that. And man, I applaud you right here, get on for you, because you would think with that program, like, so many Blacks go to Rockhurst to play football. But I never really thought about baseball, and then the college itself. Wow, you were the first Black baseball player to play at Rockhurst.
It was one of those things, and I was like, wait, what? And then it started, and then it kind of like freaked me out, because then I started thinking, like, I mean, I've read and watched every Jackie Robinson book story and all that. So now I'm thinking, you really can't mess this up.
Right. Yeah. Here come the weight. Right. Let me put that weight on you.
I'm like, what? And unfortunately, none of that stuff ever happened. Or not. I mean, we just played. It wasn't no big deal. But yeah, I mean, I'm a trivia question at Raytown High School every February. My cousin started it, and now they kind of just go every year. Like, who's it? They're like, what? Who? What? Coach Strickland.
Right. Hey, that's something to be proud of, man. Like, I did not know that. Let me ask you this question: were there Black baseball players after you?
There has been. I know Cameron Dean ended up going there from Grandview. I thought he was a stud. He transferred.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was a stud at Grandview, and then he went to somewhere and didn't pan out, and then went to North Trent, up in Trenton, whatever that's called now, and then he transferred back down. I have a player graduated about 5 years ago that he transferred in there last year.
Okay.
Lukman Ali. I just saw him at the ball fields, and he was telling me he was still there and he had another year or whatever. A couple, and just random people that I try to get to a game here and there, but the problem is, of course, they play the same time we play and all that kind of stuff, or earlier. So if it ain't a Saturday game that I can get to, I mean, I just kind of keep in contact with Coach. But back to what you're saying with the kids. So when I was at Raytown, my first year as an assistant there, freshman team, we had a kid that was really high. Like, he's probably going to get drafted. And so I'm 30, 2-1, whatever it is at that time. So I'm trying to tell him like, hey man, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. Not that I was coaching him because he already kind of knew, but just reinforcing what you need to say, what you need to do. And he kind of gave me the shoulder of like, yeah, man, you don't know what you're talking about. And so we drove out to Dave and Buster's, me, him, and the head coach, because it was some MLD Pro Day or something like that at Dave and Buster's. And I'm in the car, and I'm telling him again, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and he's just kind of looking around like, whatever.
Yeah, man, those guys, man.
And the best part of that story is we walk into Dave and Buster's, and there's 3 scouts. Hey, Strick, hey, how you doing, man? Da, 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 da. And he looked at me like, you know what you're talking about.
like, who is this guy now, right?
I've been through it, man. Now, it didn't pan out for me, but I went through it, and I know some people. I mean, that's what it is. Like, when I call coaches, it's got to the point now they just say, can they play? Yeah, okay. Like, I don't have to, because they know I've never done the Mike Piazza, like, hey, this is a guy, do me a favor and take him. Like, I've never done that. If I call you, it's because like, it's a guy I think you can take. And of course, I think of my guys, my Johnson County and my Rucker guys first. But I got a great relationship with Neosho's coach, Steve Murray. And I just know that if you can hit, that's the place you probably need to be. And I call him every once in a while. I'm like, hey, I got a couple guys here. My best friend runs a traveling team. He knows a lot of Dodge City guys and Pratt and all those kind of guys. So he helps me filter guys too. And, you know, sometimes they play on his team, sometimes they don't, but we still help each other because he's a Raytown guy too. And he wants to help us out.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I love that too. Like when you're able to build a network and a friendship within the game, man, it's crazy. You know, at first I thought I could do it all by myself, but it's a lot easier when you have people around you who have the same goal in mind. You know? So when you talk about being a black baseball player, I know what it's like to be a black baseball player growing up when we played. I don't know, and I know you do, and I don't know if the younger guys do. I mean, I know they're trying to push, you know, the RBIs and, you know, with all the things that we've had happen in our recent history, you know, I mean, it seems like the same cycles and stuff like that, but what was it like for you being a black baseball player? Because as we moved up, we became one or one of two or one of three minorities on a team, you know. And I've had some experiences and stuff like that with players, you know, from country towns, small towns, and, you know, asking me questions. I've even had some scuffles with a couple of guys for saying the wrong things on the team. And what about you? Did you experience any of those things? Or I've even seen coaches treat players differently based on what they look like, or giving someone that they knew an opportunity to play based on their relationship, I guess, with someone else. But you know how that kind of can get messy. But yeah, so what's your experience on that?
Growing up, I was definitely, you know, coming from 3 and 2, it wasn't, I mean, I think that was all of us from the Boys and Girls Club and all that stuff that came over and played, and just like I had an older cousin that played, and that's how I got there. And then it was just, you know, and I don't remember 3 and 2 being, and it could have been, but we were young, so we didn't know nothing.
I never saw that. I never had that experience at 3 and 2. 3 and 2, a blast for me.
Right.
Blast. Yeah.
I never had that there. High school, it was definitely one of those things where it's like, it was me, or it was me and another dude, but he was older. Yeah. I think my senior year, I think there might have been 4 or 5 black kids on the team, actually.
Really?
Think about it. Yeah, but they were younger than me. You know, I don't hang out with them.
Right.
But, right. Like, yeah, they were younger than me. But, you know, looking at that picture a couple of weeks ago when we were doing yearbooks, I was like, oh, I guess there was. But for a while, yeah, it was just me and Johan Brownlee. That's all it was.
Yeah, that name sounds familiar. He was the older guy, right? Okay. And he was like, yeah, I remember him. Like,
yeah. And then college in Johnson County, I had one little scuffle with a guy, you know, saying the wrong stuff. But my coach, Shelly, he was like, made it a bonding experience. He's like, what? You ain't never seen two people disagree? Get back to practice. And it was just like, it was over.
Yeah.
Nothing at Ruckers. Nothing negative. I mean, that one time, like I just talked about a minute ago, just having people look at me, and I was like, what's everybody looking at me? But if you ain't never seen it, of course you're going to look. I never had anything. I remember maybe my first or second year in softball at the Adair tournament, that big tournament at the beginning of the season. Yeah. I looked around and I was just like, am I the only Black coach in here? And I was.
And that's another thing that I'm going to do another interview with a softball guy. He's a Black coach, but I don't think there's a lot of Black softball coaches out there, men or women. I don't know. And you say it's only you were the only one at that tournament a few years ago, right?
I don't think there is. I mean, a head coach, I'm gonna say, I don't think I've seen one head coach. Really? I know I've seen a guy that was an assistant before, but that was years ago. Yeah. But around here, and no, I don't. I'm not saying there's not. I haven't. Right. And we don't play. But maybe they're at a smaller school too. I don't know. But I've never felt anything because of that. And I think it's because how I keep telling people nowadays is that it's going to be something different. It's not going to be just black and white so much because there's too many biracial kids. And so I think the black and white thing is going to fade, not go away. It'll fade a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be the big thing like that anymore. And it could be, maybe I'm crazy, I don't know. But I just feel like there's too many younger people and too many biracial kids that were like, man, come on, we ain't even trying to do that. I mean, you saw all the protests and all that stuff. I mean, it was everybody was out there. And so I think that's going to help, but it's going to end up being something else, like your eye color, or hair curly or something crazy. But professionally, no, I haven't. Now, do I think it? Yes. I think sometimes things happen and I'm like, yeah, but would you say that to so-and-so over there, kind of thing? Yeah. Am I getting talked to? Because, what? I don't know. So nothing has actually happened, in my head. It does, but it's got to be on your toes.
I agree with you. I don't think that people that think that way are crazy. I was going to say us because I don't think that I or you or we are the only people who have those conversations in our head about stuff like that. It's always in the back of your head when you're, one of many, right? Or one of, you know what I'm saying, being out there playing. I wanted to ask you another question. Like, when we were coming up playing, do you think that some of the animosity was based off of jealousy because they didn't expect us to, for one, play that sport, and for two, to be that good? Because I'm pretty sure that if you didn't play varsity your freshman year in high school, you played it as a sophomore. And I know I got time as a freshman, and man, the dudes, they just straight hated me, man. And I hated them just because I was young and I was taking somebody's spot and this. Did you experience any of that?
Yeah, that happened in practice. And so what happened was one of our senior pitcher got hurt. And they needed somebody to throw. And it was between me and this other guy. And yeah, the other guy did throw harder than me. So he got moved to the varsity. But the varsity team at that year was like football players. We literally had like linemen in the outfield.
Yeah, wow.
I think they were hitting like 200. But they were seniors, and so they weren't going to get cut, and so they thought they were somebody. And I remember one time in practice, we're picking up balls or something. Everybody's doing their part. This guy, hey, you need to go pick up all those balls. I said, what? He said, yeah, you need to go pick up all those balls, little freshman. I said, well, when your batting average is better than mine, then you can tell me what to do. Right. I just walked off, and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, no doubt. There it is.
But that helped me. I think that experience helped me in my growth as a player and now subconsciously as a coach, because at that moment in time, I thought I was the stuff. I mean, I head big. You know, I'm getting people talking to me, and I'm a freshman and sophomore, and they're starting to look and da 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 da. And so now I'm on the JV level, and I'm playing with my friends, and we're having fun, and we're playing the game. And I remember one game, those same kind of seniors came up talking stuff, and I was on the mound. I said, "I bet you $1 I strike all these people out or get 3 outs in 11 pitches." And I did it in 10 pitches. They was like, "What in the world?" You know, just but being competitive kind of thing.
That's it. Compete. Yeah.
And so that mindset helps me. Going through those things help me. Going through different little catty things on teams help me. And it brings all the stuff to me now, how I am as a coach. And so, and when I was early coaching, people just, "Oh, you play a lot of mind games." It's like, no, I don't. I just want you to think. I don't want you to tell me what your dad tells you to tell somebody. I want you to tell me what you feel and think, because then that's going to be able to let me help you. If you're still living off your parents' past, that's not going to help anybody.
No.
So I need to know about you. And so, you know, all those things together help me be who I am today. And some people like it. Some people, it takes a long time.
No doubt. I agree with you. Do you think the stuff that you went through as a baseball player coming up, well, I know you talked about it made you more competitive, but do you think that you are more competitive than you see some of the guys you coach?
1,000%.
Why? Why do you think? Why? Because things are easier for them, or what? I mean,
well, and here's the other thing. I think as older men, just like the older guys before us, is, "Oh, you guys got it easier." So yeah, I think they got it easier. Now, I didn't have to have a field either. I had a tennis ball in a garage and threw it off the garage, learned how to play short hops with myself and just throwing the ball up in the air and catching. When I was doing my master's, I wrote an essay about this, how you don't see kids outside playing anymore. And it was, you know, when I was going through my PE stuff, and I'm just like, there's no kid. Like, I remember even in Christmas, you get a basketball or a skateboard. I was outside on the snow-packed road trying to ride a skateboard because it was new.
Yeah.
And everything now is technology, and you know, with these game systems, and like even my son, like he's in the baseball kind of, and he's and it was one of those things where people always say, you know, is he gonna play? I'm like, if he wants to play, great, but I'm never gonna push him to do it. So he started playing flag football this year, and I'm telling him stuff, and he's looking at me like, "Yeah, you know what you're talking about." Doing the baseball thing a couple years ago, showing him how to have a tee and field the ground balls. My man really told me this. He said, "Daddy, your turn." I said, I don't need this. I know how to field and I know how to hit." He said, "Okay." And then he started hitting again. He said, "All right, your turn." I said, "I'm good. I don't need to do it." He goes, "I don't think you know what you're talking about." And I looked at him. I said, "I literally get paid to do this. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So yeah, the years of going out and actually playing far in between. A lot of them are on these games and systems, and they think because they saw it on TV they can do it, and da-da-da-da. But to go out and put the effort in, it's not too many of them. I mean, there's some out there, but it's not like it is. Like, we have a field for the most part is open. At least the cages are.
Right.
There ain't people out there hitting the cage.
Every day if we could. We'd be doing every day.
I used to get a key from Blue Valley Northwest. Our sponsor, he used to live out there. We used to go way out there. So this is 30 minutes from Raytown, pick up a key, and come back to Warner in the caves where our hitting tunnels were, and then drive back out there. And
man.
But that's what we did, because that's what we wanted to do.
For the love of the game, right? It was for the love of the game. Like, hey, this is what I need to do in order to get better, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I agree with you. I think they do have it easier. I don't think and I think the good players that you do have are throwbacks. They're like we were. They're out in the streets and this, that, and the other. I think it's few and far in between, but I do agree with you that they do have it easy. Technology. You mentioned something about tech, and I've got a couple more questions for you, and then I'll let you get out of here. Do you guys, first off, what do you think about technology being incorporated into a program, baseball training or whatever, and then do you guys use it?
Well, first of all, I think YouTube has hurt some of my players because, I mean, I got guys that in the past that didn't hit 200 on JV.
Yeah.
He's working on launch angle. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I'm working on my launch angle, coach. I said, okay, well, how many home runs have you hit? 0. Then what are we talking about?
Yeah.
And it's when they get into these little fad things, it's like, we got to do this because that's going to make us good. But you're not that dude on that, that TV.
True.
True. You got to find your stroke first.
Yeah.
You got to bunt a little bit more. You got to hit line drives a little bit more to understand your stroke and your pitch. But technology-wise, we use TMAP for our communication things. We got it has I can put my schedule on there. I can put all the update stuff about practice or games, or rain or food orders or whatever. Game Changer is something like, even with my kids' little league team, I'm like, the guy's got the book, and I'm like, man, you are making it 1,000 times harder on yourself.
Old school, right? Old school.
He's tallying pitches. I'm like, if you just do the Game Changer, you just hit the button, it tells you for both teams.
Man, so I think and you can tell me this because we didn't get a chance to participate in spring ball this year, but I thought there was a rule change that came up for Missouri that stated that you could have electronic scorebook. Is that still a no? In the dugout, but not on the field. Is that true or no?
Yeah, that's true. You can do that. Yeah. And the big thing with that was you just couldn't have it on the field. And so like some places where coaches only have one coach really and a kid on the helmet, they're trying to do it. And that's what they were basically saying. No, you can't do it. Somebody else has got to do it. But yeah, that has been I remember when that first came out, man, I was in there because I was I'm still old, but I'm trying to be young, trying to figure out technology.
You got to try to make that transition, man.
Man, I used to take the scorebook and then do my little notes in case, pass ball, what I thought was an error, and I'm going through Game Changer and marking it and doing it. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, we're done with this paper. Let's just do it. It just makes it easier. And and baseball is now starting to turn into like football and basketball. Like we call each other like, hey, give us a spreadsheet on somebody. And there's no more written notes about it. It's just copy the box scores or the spray charts and give it to them. Yeah. And so that's another thing that's been kind of crazy is like not studying film so much, but studying the spray charts and then trying to guess like, well, unlike softball, it's probably a different pitcher. So you got to figure out the pitcher and who's going to be your pitcher and blah, blah, blah. So technology has definitely gotten better all around, I think. Now it does, like I said, with the YouTube stuff, it has some downfalls because you see success with something and you think, if I just do that, I can do it too. Yeah. But they don't understand the trials and tribulations those people went through to get to where they are to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. If you could go back and talk to a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old you, what kind of advice would you give him about baseball, life, or both? If you could go back.
Well, that's funny because I do this every year. I do this with all my players. I tell them a story about me working at a factory my senior year in high school, freshman year in college. And it was this old guy in the lunchroom, and he looked at me and said, hey, man, don't come back here. And so I was like, yeah, I ain't coming back here. He goes, don't come back here. Everybody say that, don't come back here. And they gave me some advice that I've said to every single one of my juniors and seniors when we're talking about life. And it is, you should always go to your job, never go to work. And at that time, I was like, huh? All right, whatever. But this was 20 years ago, and I still remember this. And when I tell kids this, they're like, well, what does that mean, coach? I said, here's the deal. When people were at home on the weekends and they go, oh man, my alarm clock went off because it's Monday. Do they like it? I said, no. I said, see, they go to work. I go to my job. I don't care what day it is, I want to go. I don't like Christmas break. It's too long away. I don't like the summer. People are like, why do you do summer school? Because I just need to be with these kids. I think there was an absence of adult leadership, male leadership, Black male leadership. And that was another key factor of me getting into teaching. It's like, And I've told my principal this before. Like, and it could happen. I say it won't, but I don't feel like Warren Strickland's ever going to get the Golden Apple Award, because I'm not in it to show you, look what I'm doing. Praise me here.
Yeah.
My thing is, I want you to be a better person when you get up out of here. My baseball players, my softball players, once they leave, they're in the phone. They get a Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays. How you doing? How's life? It's not like you're gone and you just gone. Every year I get together with, it started out with softball, mixture with baseball, but every year I take those guys out. We have, lunch and hang out and tell stories. And the older ones always tell, oh, we ran so much.
Yeah.
And the younger ones like, yeah. And then they go, no, yeah, I didn't. We just playing. Yeah, I did. And then it's just fun to hear the back and forth of the young and the old, and just me sitting in the middle and just like, but I got a refrigerator full of wedding invitations, pictures of what I call my grandkids.
Yeah.
All of that's cool, man. And again, go to your job, because you don't care what day it is. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. Then my fulfillment is those kids walking across the stage. Those kids call me, tell me how hard college is, and they should have listened.
Yeah.
Dude, I've got like 4 letters, like 2 to 3 pages from players. I was such an idiot, man. I'm so sorry, girls and boys. And I still got them in my drawer, man. I pull them every once in a while, take a picture, and look what I found. And they start, yeah, I was an idiot. I got kids that are starting to become coaches calling me, asking, what can I do? How much should I charge for lessons and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just gratifying, man. So what I tell them is, make sure you're doing something you love. And when it came to me, it was my coaching now is because I knew from hearing and starting to thinking and seeing, I was a good ball player. And my head did get big. And I did stop working as hard as I could have worked. I did because I thought I was done. I just knew where I was going. Just from college visits and different coach talking to me and stuff like that. So it didn't happen. And so a little egg on your face. And then it's just like, all right, what are you going to do with it? Well, my thing now is to build better young men and women. I told a senior with his parents a couple of months ago, we had a discussion about this, and I said, my goal is not to make a professional baseball player. Those are 1 in 380,000 or whatever it is. My goal is to make you a better person, a better brother, son, father, spouse, or whatever. I mean, that's my thing. And if that happens, and if I had a little bit to do with that, that's awesome. And I think, not everybody likes you, but of course, like I said, I got 5 weddings I went to this year upstairs on this refrigerator. So that's cool, man. And I got just a tremendous amount of love from my alumni people. I'll call them when things are getting tough. Some of them like, hey, man, or whoever, like, this is kind of going on. And do you think this? And they're like, it'll be all right, man. We did the same thing. They're just not trusting you right now for whatever reason. But, once the trust comes, it's always fun. And so like we talked about earlier, like those first 2 years if somebody's a freshman or something, it's the same thing every year. Yeah. This guy don't know what he's talking about. Get him out of here. Then you start winning. They're like, oh, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, right. It's different. Yeah, you're a different coach now. Same coach, but now
yeah.
That's amazing, man. Those are definite treasures, something that we should keep when you get your flowers early, man, and while you're still living. So congratulations on that. Man, I thank you for being part of this interview. And before I let you go, are there any words of wisdom that you want to give anybody, or any books or any resources for some of these young coaches that you might want to give them, or anything before we go?
Fundamentals. That's the biggest thing that I see, either not having little leagues around, or y'all jumping into these competitive leagues too early. You're playing 60 games, but your kids don't know what 2 hands are. They don't know what 4 corners are, how to really bunt. So play 30 games and practice 30 times those fundamentals. That is my biggest thing, is those little fundamentals. Books is just going to be whatever. I like biographies, and one of the baseball-ish ones I like is about the 86 Mets and just all that crazy antics they did back in the day.
Yeah, you're talking about Strawberry and
Mookie and all of them. Yes, Dykstra, all of them.
On that team?
Who?
Carter, the catcher.
Yeah, Gary Carter. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think it was something about the Bad Boys. I forgot the name of that book now.
There was something. Yeah, I think they were like the Bad Boys before the or along the. Yeah, they were the Bad Boys before the Detroit Pistons, I think.
Yeah, it was a good book, man. I was cracking up reading that. Game Changer is another one, man. That's another one where if you don't really know, even on the website, when it shows you all the little different categories, you just scroll down and it'll tell you what it is and what the formula is and how it works. So that helps out a lot when people are looking at stuff and talking about spin rate or OPS and stuff like that. Like, well, what does that really mean? Like, that tells you. And then I really go to the old school of resources of getting people together and just talking. We go to conferences, I get a group of different people, and we just sit down and talk. I have people over at the house, and we just talk, try to figure it out, kind of thing.
Right. Okay. So is there anywhere that, do you have any social media handles where people can reach you if they need to reach you?
No, man, I'm old. I ain't got none of that. I got Facebook.
No, hey, listen, I've had to step into this new age too, man. I got stuff, and I don't know if I really want it because ain't nothing like having your privacy, right?
I got just my email is warren.strickland@raytownschools.org. I check that all the time, and I'm just email. I'm not tweeting and all that stuff.
No, so I have it, but I don't do it. I'm just some goes out, it's not coming back. You can't get that back, So, but no, man, I really appreciate you coming in or coming out and visiting with me and talking with me. I had fun. I had a blast. I can't wait for this to be shared to the people. And once again, y'all, Warren Strickland, thanks a lot, man.
This program is brought to you by the City of Fountains Coaches Association.